they want answered for this position with the submission.
Mhm.
The first one is going to be, walk me through how you would troubleshoot a situation where an application running on server A could not connect to a database running on server B. Assume this is a newly deployed application server, but the database server has been running for quite some time and other applications are able to connect with it without an issue.
Okay. Well, first of all, the database is healthy, so that's great. That cuts out a huge swath of possibilities. So I would want to bias to what's new, which is the new application, and make sure I checked any logs or errors that come back. There are a few possible categories that can come in. First of all, connection could be refused, in which case we need to make sure that it's part of any allow lists or required whitelists. In AWS, want to make sure the policy is correct. If it's just kind of getting sucked in, you're not getting any kind of response back, then it's more than likely a network or a firewall issue. In which case, we just need to make sure the connection is complete end to end. Maybe use test net connection to connect from the server to the database without actually dealing with the database connection. If it's a credentials issue, if we're getting some sort of auth error, then we just need to make sure we have the right connection string. And once we make sure that's correct, we could try logging in to the database manually from that server to make sure that the connection string works independently of the application. And my bet would be on the firewall network issues, because that's usually the problem when you're connecting something new to a database.
Awesome. I think those are all, pretty good instances where, something could be running awry right there.
Yeah.
And then next question, tell me about a time where you were asked to implement a solution where you maybe didn't know too much about the technology involved or the environment you were working in, and how did you determine the best way to implement that solution, and what was the outcome?
Okay. Well, on my last job, when I joined, I was the only DevOps engineer. It's kind of a new thing for them. So they had a Jenkins server with a lot of homegrown servers that had kind of accreted over the last couple of years. There weren't any documentation. So I had to just dig into the code. I had to go through, understand the entire system, sit stem to stern, make sure I talked to anybody who had touched it that I could find, and try to collect all that tribal knowledge and document it all in one place. And it helped me a lot when I was troubleshooting any issues that came up, as well as making any kind of improvements. And the real payoff was when we made the switch to GitHub Actions, because we already had the documentation there, and it gave us a really clear roadmap for taking this kind of a mess of random scripts and move it to an actual modernized CI/CD system. And that's kind of the job, isn't it? I mean, just understanding the system deeply so that you can modernize intentionally.
Awesome, man. Awesome. And guess that, answer kind of coincides with this next question a little bit, but tell me about a time where you've been asked to lead a project or a team where you did not have technically leadership authority, and how did you get the group or organization to work together to achieve the goal?
Yeah, so I was pulled in ad hoc by my boss as a high-level security meeting. And I get in there, and there's an executive who wants to cut off all the developers' access to GitHub immediately because of an Ars Technica article that he read, which of course would have cost hundreds of hours of developer productivity and at least 6 figures to shut it off while they figured it out. And so I knew I was kind of the low man on the totem pole, right? So I didn't have any sort of authority there. So the first thing I did was, while we were in the meeting, I looked up the actual article, dug down into the CVE it was referring to, read the official CVE, figured out what the attack vector looked like, realized it didn't apply to us at all. And so just on the fly, I was able to present to everybody that the CVE didn't apply to our situation, and was able to get buy-in from everybody. Once we were all on the same page, the need to disconnect people from GitHub kind of dissolved. And I think we kind of dodged a bullet on that one. So
Yeah.
well, one thing I learned from that is that sometimes, even if you don't have the authority, sometimes credibility and evidence are the authority. And if you can find a way to communicate that, it can be just as valuable as having the authority yourself. So
awesome, man. Awesome. Yeah, it sounds like something that it could